Hello, my name is Tommy Morrill. I'm super excited to be sharing a progress update on something I haven't really done a progress update on this in a while. Um, this is my work in progress debt simulator. Um, I've been working really hard uh, this past month or so, uh, doing some major tweaks, adding a lot of things, and so I'm going to give kind of a progress update here. This is a very recent update. I have finished adding um, a crafting system. It's very cool. I'll demonstrate it and then I will show you how it works. We'll jump in. Let's use this and stand a little. See. All right. So it's full screen. So we have the pickup text like normal. We have all our normal UI, right? So something I've been working on and really well is the recipe system. These are temporary items. It's simply just placeholder. Um, but click on one of these, it'll pull up uh, basically the recipe for it. It'll say what you need. You have the title up top, and you have a description and then icon for what the item is. It's just using that, but this will actually craft like a little goblin helmet um, out of that. And so let's actually do it, right? Um, so I added wood. That's another new interactable. You get it from the
Dink,
trees. Mine them.
boom, dink, dink, boom.
This little dude spawns sometime. Okay, anyways. So we can hit our inventory with tab. It's like the whole point of this inventory is supposed to be a dynamic inventory. Spent a lot of time working with this to get it to work how I want it to, so you can move items to any slot, and it'll save it when I open it. Right, looks great. Um, also show the improvements I made to that. So let's grab some wood here, and then some gold. As we saw earlier, that craft the test item, we're gonna need wood and gold. So let's check what we currently have. We're looking at 7 wood, 3 gold. These can be in any order we want them to. Doesn't matter. So do it. Or 7 gold, or 7 wood, 3 gold. Let's give it a craft. Crafted. We get a little feedback there. System. I can actually continue crafting these. I should have more wood and gold. Craft another one. Another one. Oh, ran out of material, right? And so when we look back in our inventory, we should have 3 new goblin helmets. That's what this crafts. It's just I didn't update all the text. Um, and look at that, 3 new goblin helmets. Wow. Anyways, so it just what it'll do. I'll get into the code in just a second, but it populates the basically the newest item in the array like possible. Um, great. So, to show how the drop system works, I'll grab a whole bunch of platinum here. Grab it all. Grab it all. Okay. So platinum comes in stacks of 5. I just grabbed a ton of it. So what we can do here is how the drop system works now. When you pick it up, it picks up in the whole stack. So to go and actually drop it, you hit drop item. Um, choose how many you want to drop on the slider. The slider will update as you slide it. If you don't want to do this, you can just do that, back out, and then reopen it. I'll probably make something a little bit easier. Um, but it won't affect, like you won't, if you do that, like if you do this and then try and place it back in there, you can't like glitch it out. Well, I say that as I glitch it out. Oh, no, I didn't. But like if you go like this, then try and do that and then drop it, it's not gonna do it, right? Because that would be silly. We don't want players being able to get free stuff. But if you actually do follow through, like 4, You then have one left, and the player has dropped 4. Kind of got exploded, but you get the point. Single items, you just drop them. Done. Goblin helmet. Wood's the same way. All the single items will just automatically drop. Items don't collide with the player anymore. They will collide with each other. So then you won't like be able to place 2 items right on top of each other. Yeah, great. Let's take a look into the actual system. Oh, and then just the save, quit. Um, yeah, great. Let's take a look at the actual code behind it. So let's jump right in with the inventory. So inventory is quite big. A lot of this could have probably been put in functions. We do have one function. It's a little bit messier than my other code, but essentially, actually, let's just go from the top. Start, populate these arrays. Array here, there's a button for each one of these, as well as another widget, which is the actual inventory slot. There is a better way to do this. I just haven't implemented here yet. I did actually implement a better way for the crafting menu. I'll show that in a second. Goes through, populates the array. Great. Pulls the inventory. So pull the inventory, populate it all based on what is in the inventory. That's on the beginning of the event. When an item is clicked, it'll pull the button that was clicked to then find which item. Again, there's an easier way to do this, or a better way to do this. I just haven't yet. And so it decides if it's based on if the temp slot is full or not, which is look something. There's like the little slot that pops up in the corner of it. That's the temp slot. Is full. So if it's not equaling null, it's gonna place it. If there's nothing in it, it's gonna select it. Right, and this was debugging that doesn't act perfect. So this makes sure that temp slot is properly, and to update the quantity slider. Yeah, so this will adjust the temp slot to the mouse position. So for placing, it simply just grabs the struct, make sure that the place isn't empty. You can check if it's empty or not, because if the actor is null, right, that means it's empty. So then it'll go through, populate the UI for the new location, update the UI for the temp slot to be back to nothing. It'll adjust the structures for the new, or the structure arrays, sorry, for the new location. This one just the array for the actual UI. This is for the actual structure for that image slot. Set those back to go here. Is for selecting. It's similar. Checks for the slot to make it not null. Pull the arrays at that location. Set the UI for the temp slot. Update the UI for the selected inventory slot, and then update the arrays again. This is for dropping items. It's pretty simple. So what happens here is you click the drop. If the quantity is equal to 1, then it'll go through, get rid of the temp slot, set that all, and it'll just spawn one actor of whatever the temp struct is. If it is not, it's going to set up the quantity slider, this, which then, when that confirm button is clicked, it'll go through, spawn all the actors. And once it's done with that, it'll check and see if there's a remainder. If there is a remainder, so say it was 5 items and you only selected to drop 3, it'll update the text. Then you can decide what to do with the remainder of those, and it'll also update the temp struct. If there's no remainders, if you drop the whole stack, it'll just reset it all back to nothing, and then it'll get rid of the slider prompt. when it's done. So yeah, that's the inventory. The actual crafting menu uses kind of it's a little bit similar. It's a little bit more condensed though, and I put a lot of it in function this time, which is probably the smarter thing I should have done with the inventory system. But on construct, it's gonna play the little slide in animation. It's gonna populate the recipes, which will open in a second, and then it'll set the inventory. We need to pull the inventory so then we're able to access it and basically see what items we have, right? So we can test and see if we don't have items for a recipe and give the proper feedback for that. So populate recipes, what it'll do, this is my first time using data tables, yet I have found them to be extremely helpful. So how recipes work is they are part of a data table. A data table which has a struct recipe, where basically, so all recipes will be able to contain a max of 3 items, right? That's going to be item 1, item 2, item 3. Um, if they're null, like if you only need 2 or you only need 1 item to craft it, that's fine. It won't do anything. I've accounted for that. And then so we also check first if the player has unlocked this. As of right now, I don't know if I'm going to use that or not, but it's good to have just in case I decide to make some sort of progression system, right? It has the name of the actual craftable, has the icon with it, and then it has the item that gets produced when it is crafted, has the quantity it needs for each item, so how much of each resource do you need to craft it, um, how many how much of the resource are you going to get from when you craft it, and then you have a description, right? So in the data table, you can just go through, add one, uh, add it all. We could do a test one right here, right? Um, so say we wanted this to be test 2, wanted item 1 to be a diamond chunk and an emerald chunk, and then the icon, just make it a little thing, and then it'll produce a gold bar, right? Do 1, 1, 0. This is a test, right? So now, see it. So if you go here, I'll just launch it in viewport. Um, yeah, we have this is a test. Uses a diamond chunk and an emerald chunk. And I said it produces a gold bar. I'm not gonna actually go through and craft it, but you get the gist, right? Um, so data tables, super cool. I'm definitely going to use those more often now, considering how easy it is and how easy it is to make those recipes to a point where I won't have to worry about like manually putting in the code for that, right? So that'll set up based on that. It'll going through the loop. It'll set the current recipe to break it and add it to the recipe structure. It'll only add it to the recipe structure if it's unlocked. Then it'll create the widget for it, and it'll stuff this widget into our scroll panel, which is here, our scroll box. Set the opacity for everything, basically just setting all the visibility things. Right, let's go back to the event graph. And then this is when you close the inventory, it'll properly update it. So it's going to set the inventory for the player, or yes, sorry, I got really confused for a second. It's late. So as third person player, it's going to set the inventory based on what changes we've made to the player inventory. Going to set the game as pause or unpause, do all that such. It's going to replay that slide in so it slides away. And then after a little bit of delay, so we get the full animation, we're going to remove, right? So this is resetting all the text and making sure all the like crafting visuals are there. This whole chunk here just resets the text back to nothing. Make sure that we don't have any any text that's just not supposed to be there. This section sets the visibility back to visible for all the items on the crafting like display. Um, this sets it here to what we need it to be based on the current recipe, which is just taken by the recipe number selected. So, with each recipe widget, it's just going to have its own array number, name, icon, and button. It just looks like this. Pretty simple. Um, and so whenever it's clicked, it'll just shoot this event back to the owner with its number, and then from there we can do this, right? So it pulls that recipe that we clicked on. It'll set everything properly. Check to so this goes through the ingredients that it needs, and then so it'll check each class that is listed here, and it'll just say, hey, is this a class valid? If it is, we're going to populate the slot for that class, which is just populating that singular widget in that spot. So populating one of these, look, 3 boxes. So populate slots is pretty simple. Literally just populating the slot with all the name, icon, count comes through there as well, right? Does that for all 3. So here is the actual crafting bit. So it starts by, so whenever that craft button is clicked, it'll start by running a check. This check, which I forgot to comment, but I'll get there, is gonna start by setting the player inventory to a temporary inventory. This is so we can look into the inventory, make changes to the temporary inventory, but then if we end up not having enough material, we can discard that, and we don't have to worry about changing the actual player's inventory. So yeah, we're gonna grab the current recipe, break it out. Depending on the loop, we're gonna set the current class and the current quantity to the respective item for each. And just to make sure that we're not getting any errors, we're gonna check the current class is valid before we continue. So if the current class is valid, it's gonna go through. It's gonna basically just look through this temporary inventory. It's gonna check the quantity of the element, that of each inventory element. Check if it is greater than the current quantity of whatever the crafting item needs, right? So say we have 3 wood in our inventory and it needed 2 for the recipe, then that's good. We'd pass. We'd change that slot, just that's changed once we change the inventory slot, to then represent that. So for example, right, we had 3 wood, take away 2 because that's what it needs. So it'll change the item quantity down to 2. It's just going to take the quantity minus the crafting quantity needed. And then it's going to print that out. Break it. Or it's just going to print that. That's just for me, just to see. And then it'll break this. So then we can go back and then find the next one, right? And so it's going to do that. If it gets here and it realizes that, hey, this inventory slot is less than the current quantity, but it is the proper class, right? It's the proper actual inventory slot. And what it's going to do is it's going to go up here. It's going to take that inventory slot that we're on, and it's going to take the current quantity minus whatever value, whatever number we currently have. Say the inventory slot we're on has 1. It requires 2 wood, right? We have 1 wood in that inventory slot. It's going to take it, take that 2 minus 1. Then we're only going to need 1 more wood, and it's going to reset this inventory slot back to null. So it's going to be empty now. And this will just help with inventories that like I showed in the example earlier where I had like 1 wood, then 3 wood, then 3 wood, right? That'll prevent any error from happening there. So yep, it'll go back. Okay, next, right? We'll adjust the class, adjust the quantity needed. Yeah, and so it'll keep going. And we're gonna look at the end and see if it has been changed or not. That's what matters. Because if thinking here, hold on. There could be an error here. I'll fix it later though. Anyways, it's gonna check and see if changed is true, because we need change to be true. That means that we actually made the change and there was enough quantity, right? Once it does that, it's gonna print that out for me, and then it's gonna send the temp inventory to the player inventory, but only if we made that change. If there wasn't a change, like I say we didn't have enough material, then it's not. We're gonna go back here, and then it's gonna set the visibility of the validity text, right? That's either gonna be depending on the result, if it was a valid craft or not. It's gonna either say crafted or not enough material. It's gonna change the color. And here, this is what's in charge of making sure it populates the most early inventory slot, and depending, it's either going to do that or it's going to drop it, right? If you have no inventory slots available. So it'll just go here, basically say, hey, is this less than 10 is the number of inventory slots. I can probably change that to be dynamic later. But I'm going to say, hey, is the current index greater than 9, pretty much? Or is it not less than 9? If so, then it'll drop it. But if there is an available inventory slot, we check for that right here by breaking this out and seeing if there's a valid actor. If there is not a valid actor, right, that's true, then we can set that array element. Boom. That's how it's done. Yeah, this was a very fun learning experience when it comes to data tables in Unreal Engine, because I hadn't used them before. But it turns out they can actually be very, very handy. I just made a whole new thing. You guys watched me, right? So if you have any questions or any comments on what you'd like to see, or any suggestions for me regarding my code, feel free to take a look, or to let me know. Sorry. I'm really open to anything. I thank you for whoever may be watching this. I just wanted to give kind of a progress update on this. There are a couple other things I'm working on with this. Actually, I can open up just real quick before I end this video. Oops. Yeah, here we go. Play from start here. This one has the music too, of course. So here, you can actually, sorry, there's a tree in this like cave area. Oh shoot, did not mean to do that. Drop all this gold. I can't see a thing. Lighting is pretty atrocious. If there's 5 in there, it should smelt into a bar, which looks like 1. Made it out right here. Drop it in. Should have 5 in there now, and then you can smelt it into a gold bar. And it sells for a little bit more. That's the other thing I did. Pretty simple. Alright. Thanks for watching. Like I said, let me know if you have any comments or anything. Alright. Peace.